spell, I think is pretty powerful. So I've got high hopes for this card. I think it'll surprise us. We got Allie Armorsmith. I think I saw some handsome gentleman with a very average-sized forehead reveal this card on YouTube. Yeah, this is like one of the only payoffs in Warrior for buffing cards in your hand. I mean, if you buff it up, Allie Armorsmith is insane. The problem is it's like the only card that gets a bonus from being buffed up in your hand, right? Aside from neutrals that you include. So, is it worth playing cards like Stolen Goods just for the sake of your Allie Armorsmith? I think no. It might be worth playing Bolster, because Bolster is actually a super powerful card if you buff 2 minions with it. Like, super powerful. So in the Bolster deck, I would play it. Stolen Goods is not going to be a thing just because this card's a thing. This card is powerful, though. I mean, just in a Control Warrior deck, there's a high chance you play it as well. There's going to be a lot more Cabal Shadow Priests now, but there might be a way to play around that with a buff or something. But yeah, overall, Allie Armorsmith is like, it's a playable card. I think it's fine. We'll see what archetypes it ends up sliding into, though. Then we got Sleep with the Fishes, which is one of my favorite artworks of the set. I think it's pretty funny. Deal 3 damage to all damaged minions. I mean, it really feels to me like a 2-card combo in order to clear the board. Does Warrior need an effect like this? I think the answer is like maybe. Like maybe you play one in like that Arcane Giant deck I was talking about. This is like the deck already has a lot of whirlwinds, right? So maybe this is another way to just wipe the board in a really powerful way. I'll start by testing out one of it and see how it goes, but I think outside of like the Pyromancer Warrior decks, you're not going to see this as like a staple 2 of or anything like that in many archetypes. Brass Knuckles, after your hero attacks, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. If you just compare this to Weaponsmith, you're getting the stats in a delayed fashion and you're paying for the weapon right away. It's just not good enough. It's too slow. The payoff's not high enough. This card doesn't make the cut. It's not good enough, period. Then we got Hobart Grapplehammer. So this card's another example of like card draw RNG, in that if it's in your opening hand, you're chilling. Your game's, you're in a real good spot. But if it's not in your opening hand, if you draw it later, it has so much less impact. Whereas if you like coin it out on turn 1, it completely changes the way you play the game. So yeah, overall, it's still early game RNG, but it's like it's a less tilting type of RNG. Like it's still gonna be frustrating to lose to drawing things like Patches or Hobart in the wrong order, but it's still better RNG than like playing a card with an expected result and then having that result just make one of the 2 players angry. I think this is like the better way to introduce RNG, which is with card draw order. And again, this doesn't have the word random on it, but it's random because if you draw it early, it's obviously going to be an incredible god tier card, and if you draw a late game, it's just bad. It's a vanilla 2/2, so it really depends. Alright, moving on to neutrals. I'm going to grind through these a little faster. It's taking a really long time, sorry guys. Ground Street Smuggler. This is Battlecry, give a random minion in your hand +1/+1. I think the stats for this just aren't good enough to be competitive right now. I mean, it's close, man. This card's like almost there, you know, but you compare it to like Frothing Berserkers and Blackland Technicians and Fierce Monkeys, and you can just have those extra stats kind of up front. Hunter already has so many other 3-drops, but Hunter's the one deck that has 2 cards that really care about getting buffed. So maybe in Hunter, it's a deck that I play this in. Overall, though, it's probably just not quite costed aggressively enough to see play in Constructed Standard. Moving on, we got Grime Street Informant. Sorry about the background noise. 2 mana 1/1, discover a Hunter Paladin or Warrior card. Yeah, these 2 mana discover things are so interesting to me because, you know, if it's the same value as Novice Engineer technically, which is not playable, but you're talking about a card that can like break the barrier of what your class can do. Like imagine, how do I describe it? I mean, imagine Warrior with equality, you know? Like, there's so many, or like Hunter's Mark or something, there's so many cross synergies between these class cards that just being able to randomly do broken stuff that your class shouldn't be able to do might make this playable. Even if on average it's not like great value. I think it's the kind of card, I made a video about my thoughts on this mechanic and how I think, you know, I like the mechanic, but I don't like that it further blurs the lines between class identities within Hearthstone. This is like an example of that, you know, like people always do those thought exercises of like, what would be the best deck if you could, there are no class restrictions, right? You can play any cards from any class on the same deck. And that's what these cards kind of do to some extent, right? So there might just be some broken card rule with the deck. Maybe they're trying to like set up Brand as ground speed informant and make it happen or something. We'll see. Alright, moving on, we got Don Honcho. 7 mana, 5/6, give a random minion in your hand, +5/+5. It's a big vanilla dude, which lets you spend, which takes your entire turn to play, and then he lets you spend another entire turn to play another big vanilla dude. And then you wait a third turn, and then that big vanilla dude that you played gets to pass. It's just too slow, too beefy. I mean, unless you're trying to set up some sort of ridiculous combo by buffing with a guy in your hand, I just don't see this being played much. Outside of like being used as a cold blood combo piece type of thing in some kind of weird deck. But yeah, outside of that, I'm not too impressed. Alright, next we got Jade Spirit. I think it's going to be unlikely that this sees play in any of the Jade decks, but maybe, just maybe, it makes the cut somewhere. If you're playing like a 4-mana, you know, 2/3 plus a Jade Golem, that Jade Golem has to be like a 3/3 before this is worth it for you. And I think it's kind of unlikely. It's also overlap. Like, okay, the one class that really wanted more Jade cards was Shaman, because it has the good Implosion card. And not much else besides the weapon. But the problem there is Jade Spirit also costs 4 mana, so you can't really curve Jade Spirit into the Jade Implosion. So I don't really think this will see too much play, but maybe, just maybe, it's one of those things where, like, I think this is just like one of the weaker Doom cards of the set, basically. And that's how I feel about the Jade mechanic. I see it similar to being, I see it as similar to Cthulhu. Yeah, I think this will be kind of like the 7/6 for 7, you know. But this is better than that. I don't know. Maybe it'll see play. I don't want to say never. It's possible. Alright, we got Lotus Agents, Battlecry, discover a Druid, Rogue, or Shaman card. I mean, man, if you compare this to Ethereal Conjurer, it's very similar, and it's a pretty powerful effect to give to classes that might want it. Rogue just has too many 5-drops now. You got Azure Drake, you got the Stealth guy. Shaman's had too many 5-drops forever. You also have Azure, like, all 3 of these classes are Azure Drake classes, right? Druid, I think I want to play Barnes in, so I'm probably not going to play Lotus Agents, but if I did want another card draw card, I actually think Lotus Agents is probably better than the 5-mana Druid spell that drops 2. So, if anything, this will see play in Druid. I think in the other 2 decks, you're not going to see much of it, though. This is the type of card that actually gives Rogue access to healing Rogue. So if you want to put Lotus Agents in your like Rogue Miracle deck, and then discover, and maybe you get Healing Wave, maybe you get the new Shaman 3/6 guy that heals you, maybe you get Feral Rage or Healing Touch or something like that. There's a lot of ways that this enables classes to do things they shouldn't be able to do. Druid can play it and find like removal for a big minion. You can find a Hex, you can find a Burn Spell, you can find like Shadow Strike, Assassinate, Sap. So it helps shore up the weakness of the class playing it in some cases, but we'll see if that's good enough to see play. Then we got Aya Blackpaw, which is good enough for the Jade Golem deck because she's good value to begin with, but mostly because she works with Barnes. Barnes is broken. I know I say Barnes a lot, but mean, I think the metagame will become a point, just like with Yogg-Saron, where like every deck just gradually changes a few cards until it's a Barnes deck, you know? Just getting free wins is too powerful of an effect. But yeah, I think you do play in the Jade deck. I'm not 100% sure, but she seems strong enough. At least in Druid, I'll be playing her for sure, because you have the ramp, so 6 mana card's better. And that deck cares about triggering multiple Jade cards with fewer dedicated card slots. Like, I don't want to play 20 Jade cards in my Druid deck and some ramp. That'd be bad. I want to play removal and card draw and ramp. So the fact that this one card gets me 2 Jade Golem triggers is a really big deal, because it's going to buff all my other Jade cards that I'm drawing into later. Alright, moving on, we got the Cabal Chemist, Battle Cry, I just don't see this being played, but I mean, maybe there's a deck out there that just wants more spells in hand. Like, maybe you just throw it in, like, Tempo Mage or something. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible. I think the stats are too weak. We'll see moving forward, though. Definitely an interesting card. There's a lot of bad potions to hit, though. We got Cabal Courier, which is Battle Cry, Discover a Mage, Priest, or Warlock card. So all of the faction Discover guys have different stat lines. They think you... Let's see, like, I don't know if you even play this in your Reno deck. Maybe you do, but the stat line is so bad. It's possible that it's worth it anyway, because you get a chance of getting the legendary Reno cards, but I don't know, likely that actually is not very... but yeah, most likely not going to see play, just like the Potion guy, but we'll see. Sorry, the 4-mana 3/3 Battle Cry at a random Potion guy, that is. Kazakus, or Kazakis on the other hand, will see play. Auto-include in all of your Reno decks, he's super powerful. The low mana cost potions especially just are nuts, like 1 mana and 5 mana. Just a super powerful card, super fun. I love the design, it tells a story, it has some amount of execution behind it. The only thing I don't like about this card is I know that the second it gets played, my opponent's Roken. The second he gets played. So, as soon as they play it, I'm gonna get up from the stream for a bathroom break. But other than that, I do love the card. I think it's great design. Really brilliant design. Like, Blizzard outdid themselves on this, right? I realize how much effort a card like Kazakis takes to make. You need a vision for it in the first place. You're having it tell a story. It needs to be thematic. You need card art for like all the individual potions. It's this character in and of himself is some sort of spooky backstory thing with dragons. Like, they really put a ton of time into this one card, and I realize that you can't do that with 300 cards in a set, but I wish that this amount of time was put into like Barnes, for example, and we made like a miniature version of all like a bunch of iconic legendaries that he can summon at random, you know. Like somebody on Reddit said like Tyrion Dishwasher is like a 1/1 taunt that Barnes summons, and Death Rattle you add like a 2/2 weapon for 2 to your hand or something, or like add a 2/1 weapon to your hand. Tyrion's Fork or something. You know what I mean? Like, well, it's so much more effort to do things like that, but I think it'd be very cool if they did. So, yeah, really props to Blizzard for making the cards. So really, it also showcases something that digital card games can do that other games can't. So definitely knocked it out of the park with that one. Mistress of Mixtures, 1 mana, restore 4 health for both players. I love this card. I love that Warlock gets it. I've been desperate for more good Warlock healing. This card is made for that class. Like, Control Warlock decks are some of my favorite in the game to play, and they've just been lacking healing. You've been like forced to play Reno because you have no other healing, because Farseer is just not enough. Now that you have this, it works so well with Life Tap. You're doing something turn 1, which you don't usually do. You get a tap on 2, tap on 3, tap the second one. I don't know, man. I like it. Really excited for this card. I think it's going to be pretty iconic for a lot of control decks. It's worse than Zombie Chow on average, I would say, but better than Zombie Chow in some matchups. So we'll see. It's not exactly comparable to Zombie Chow. They do very different things. This card can be used to actually keep your life total up, whereas Zombie Chow is all about winning the board. Blowgill Sniper. This card blows. Friendly Bartender. At the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero. A little bit underrated. If you really desperately need a 2-drop in something like Priest, this is way better than the Geode card. Probably still not good enough to see play, but yeah, that's cool. I mean, I like cards like this. I would really like to see like a 2-mana 2/3 with Battle Cry, gain 2 life. Speaking of which, they actually made Gedge some Socialite, which is, it's actually the next card in the list. So yeah, Voodoo Doctor for 1 extra mana and 1 extra health. If this card was a 2/3 instead of a 2/2, it would be worth discussing. As a 2-mana 2/2, it will never stick up, ever under any circumstances. So I'm just gonna skip past that. Backstreet Lepers, same thing. They're taking 1-mana cards in the game like Voodoo Doctor and Leper Gnome, and they're just upping some stats on them in an inefficient way. So yeah, these cards are intentionally weak. So yeah, they're not going to see too much play. Hired Gun, I don't think you're going to put this card in your deck on purpose too often, but you might discover it off of I Know a Guy sometimes, or stuff like that. Fierce Monkey is generally going to be better. You're not going to play it in too many decks. But yeah, just a solid neutral that exists. Good in Arena, I think. So Street Trickster is a super interesting card. 3 mana 0/7. So spell damage has become like very fashionable, I guess is the word, in high Legend play. People are putting every kind of Kobold in every kind of deck. Dara got rank 1 Legend with double Kobold Geomancer. There's a bunch of Druid players playing the 4 mana 2/6 Kobold. People are playing Jungle Moonkin Curator Druid. They're playing Evolved Kobold and Freeze Mage and Rogue, and sometimes Druid. It's like all the spell damage guys are seeing play except Dalaran Mage. And this one is like interesting because, okay, it doesn't fight back, but it's hard to kill immediately, and it just gives you like prolonged value over several turns. I am very, very curious about how playable this card is. I'm going to try it out in a lot of different classes, and it most likely won't make the cut, but just because of the whole fad of running spell damage and everything, it's entirely possible that this card becomes a staple in some decks. It's just so hard to kill, and it makes your spells so much more powerful, like, even in Tempo Mage. I mean, obviously, if you lose the board, it sucks because they kill it so quickly, like Doomsayer, but it's also kind of nice that you get to recover the board with it if they just deal damage to it but don't finish it off. We've got Toxic Sewer Ooze, another option for stat line for anti-weapon stuff. A lot of the time I play Acidic Ooze that's in decks like Priest, where I'm desperate for the 2-drop aspect of it anyway. But I can imagine a scenario where I have a lot of 2-drops already, and I would just prefer the extra stats and a 3-drop. And you know, in some decks, I'm sure it's a reality. Can't think of one right now, but yeah. Moving on. I don't think you'll see too much play. I think it's